Yeah, film. Yeah, films. We watched some films. Now let's talk about those films.
So, She Never Died is directed by Audrey Cummings. And it is about when a girl goes missing, a woman with a mysterious past tracks down the people responsible, which is, I guess what happens IMDb. But not what happens. So She Never Dies tells the story of a zombie cannibal woman who eats bad men. The film is funny and gruesome, like super gruesome, which is two of my favorite things in horror. Like, I love when you have like something really, gory and ridiculous, and then also comedic, which is, why I enjoy things like Evil Dead. It's fun. It's good fun. And what I found in this film was what I was looking for in the feminist vampire revenge flick bit. In that, where that film was like pulling its punches, this one just punched harder, and it didn't pull back from what it was saying. Like, it never was like, "Oops, murder's bad," which, I mean, it is. Murder is bad, but it wasn't like, you don't have a right to be angry. And our protagonist definitely does. Sorry, my hands all over the place. So this is a sequel to the Henry Rollins' He Never Died, which I never felt I was missing pieces of this story because I didn't see that one. Like, they have similar things happening, but they can exist on their own. Like, I think there might be another one coming around. Maybe They Never Died, where maybe they come together and we get a few more answers, because these definitely feel like origin stories that lead up to what happens, like what they're here for. But I think Lacey's story is her own story, and so we follow Lacey, who's played by Olenike Adeliyi, and she is this deadpan anti-hero who accidentally becomes a feminist icon. Like, it was definitely not her intention. She is cursed. She needs to eat bone marrow to survive. And she strategically chooses bad men as her victims to survive. So she's, picking people, one, that people won't miss, but also it kind of benefits society that she's eating them, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like, and say what you will about, like, the morality of it. Like, she's just Rorschach, but good. Like, a good version of that. Like, what you all want Rorschach to be, she is. So Lacey is a character who, on the surface, appears to be driven by instinct alone. Like, she's very separate from people. She comes across as, like, uncaring, emotionless, and at times, like, inhuman. Like, in that she's just kind of driven by, I need to survive, I need to eat bone marrow, I'm going to do that. But when you closely look at her actions, you find that beneath this, like, hardened, animalistic facade is a woman who understands the fight between good and evil, and she has been around long enough to be jaded by humanity, right? She is tired of the performance of good and disgusted by the power of evil. And in He Never Died, it's made clear that he has been around since the Old Testament times, which has you questioning, like, how long has Lacey been here? And it also, like, helps you understand, like, just how over the world she is. If she's been around for all this time, we know that humanity is trash now. Like, imagine if you had, like, since Old Testament times knew how trash humanity was. It makes all the sense that she's like, I just do this and exist. I don't want anyone to notice that I'm here. And in the film, our vigilante hero catches the eye of the hardened detective Godfrey, who surprisingly knows what she is to an extent. But despite knowing that she is a killer who eats people and clearly isn't staying up all night thinking about it, he enlists her to bring an end to a human trafficking ring. And in her first mission to find those responsible for the trafficking, she ends up saving this spunky sex worker, Susie. And the interactions between the two are, like, charming and, like, bring humor to an otherwise dark film. Susie immediately pegs Lacey as this feminist cannibal heroine that the world needs, and she, like, dismisses it. Lacey immediately lets Susie know that she doesn't like her. like, you are trouble.
Yeah.
You say too many words. You're so loud. Like, I don't need this. And I think a part of her also knew that she would care for Susie, and that that kind of goes against her just trying to fly under the radar, because if she cares, then she's going to get more invested than she previously wanted to. Yeah. So I think, underneath this tough exterior that she kind of puts up, we do see the hero who can't help but fight for what is right. And she sees something in Susie's persistence that, like, despite her hard and troubled life, she still believes in the potential for good to prevail. Like, she kind of hints at all these awful things that she's had to do to survive. That, like, she's not eating people. Like, Susie's just a person. But she's had to do, like, things that she regrets, and she's had to really, put herself in some dangerous situations in order to survive and kind of reconcile with that. But at the end of the day, she's still like, oh, you are a hero. Like, you're a superhero. Like, we need you. Like, she's like, you're a monster. That's good. Like, I don't know, like, you have to do it. You have to help. And I think in seeing, that someone who is, so down and still able to kind of see a light, despite the fact that she found her chained to a bed, right? Like, you found her in a pretty dark place.
Yeah.
And she's still like, let's go into danger and save people. That I think it opens up in Lacey this potential to be that hero. Just in the fact that this woman believes in her and has the kind of innocence to believe in a world where evil doesn't win all the time. Kind of shows Lacey that maybe that's true. Maybe it could. Adeliyi gives a phenomenal performance. I really enjoyed her in it. Like, she's very unique. It's rare that we see heroes like her, especially in horror. We don't have this, like, cliched horror final girl, but rather, like, a grizzled hero in Lacey. And again, anti-hero, because she's kind of bad. Like, she's not doing it in this ethical way, right? And she is solemn and studious, very quiet. She doesn't have, like, witty responses. She just tells you exactly what it is. She has this, like, blunt responses that give comedic relief to, like, some really dark or like scenes following some heavy gore. It's like, ooh, that's funny. Like, just because she's peculiar, and that's fun. And as Kat will discuss in her section, it is incredibly important that Lacey is a dark-skinned Black woman who is fighting in this. Like, she is the protagonist and not the support to the quirky Susie, which is super important for a horror film. And she even has, like, this scene where she fights against the leader of the human trafficking ring, who is a white woman. And all to say about the feminist movements of our past, and, the fact that many of our revolutions have been spearheaded by Black women and women of color, only to find that it's in the public eye, they don't get as much attention for it, or sometimes white women are actively enforcing the same harmful societal expectations in order to uphold how society is. Because I had this conversation with Wimoto Nyoka of Dusky Projects, which we'll talk to in one of our live episodes, where she was just talking about how, there's this thing with certain white feminists that it's not so much that they want to demolish the patriarchy, it's just that they want to be the ones who are profiting off of it, right? Like, they're the ones who want the power. They don't want to dismantle the power, because they just want it to switch over to them, and that's kind of what this person represents in this moment. And so to have, like, a dark-skinned Black woman come in and fight and be like, you are the evil, like, you're the head of this evil that is harming other women in such a horrific way, says a lot more than I think even the director might have been intending, to be honest. And the writer, who, like, was a man, and he wrote it, I think I don't know if it was Audrey Cummings' intent in choosing Adeliyi for the role to transform it into something that is this powerful and opinionated, but it has become that. And I think, just as George A. Romero didn't fully understand the impact of casting Dwayne Jones in Night of the Living Dead, like he has adamantly said in record, like that it wasn't purposely to be a statement of race. He was just like, this guy is the best. It just so happened that it came out at the same time that some really heavy things were happening in the civil rights movement. And so it had a bigger impact in that just by having him there. So it kind of becomes more than what the filmmaker originally intended. And so it fundamentally changes the messaging. And I think Cummings 2 has a film that represents more than just femme power. It is black femme power, and there's a heaviness with that I think some of these the other articles that we found were kind of missing. We found in quite a few where there was maybe a line or two about like, oh, and it is a black woman and she's, killing evil white men. That's lovely, right? Like, people being like, yeah, we need that. And then it's just kind of brushed over. And I think that says a lot to a viewing audience, like, says a lot about the audience, in that it is just a sentence. It is just this afterthought because it isn't something that takes up that amount of time for them, right? It is just a sentence in their life, and kind of ignoring the fact that it is really powerful, just like having her there. Like, it is honestly like, it's saying so much more. And I don't want to give more credit to Cummings or them for doing that, but I'm just saying that maybe it has evolved past what they even knew. And hopefully, in the trilogy of things, and at the end that we can be even more intentional about the delivery of that and her character. So I did want to brush into a bit of spoilers, which is literally like because of the ending. And so in He Never Died, it's revealed who he was, and in this it's revealed who she is and how why they've lived this long and what the curse is. So I'm gonna dive into spoiler central because I think it's really important who she was revealed to be, and I got very excited when I heard who she was. So spoiler town, we are going. So if you have not watched this film, please do. I think we watched it for free on like Tubi or something. It was
I think so too, yeah.
It's so worth it. It's quick. There is a bit of gore, because she eats fingers, and it's like gross.
And also it's like, doesn't die when attacked.
Yeah.
So like, I guess they felt the need to really highlight that.
Yeah, and so there's a bit of that. There's a lot of violence, but it has funny moments, and I think it's underrated. Like, people really should watch it. So pause this, go watch it, and then come back. So if you come back, in the very end, we get a glimpse into who Lacey is and just how long she's been wandering the earth. In He Never Died, it is revealed that he is Cain, and that he is cursed because he killed his brother. And so he has to live forever, and he's a cannibal, and that's like the mark of Cain, essentially, is that, you killed your brother, and now you can never die, and you have to live with that. Sucks. Whatever. That's how I feel. Cain is whatever. He was a murderer. He was mad because he didn't get enough attention. And that's just kind of classic white man in the Bible. So I don't care about Cain and that revelation. I think the best Mark of Cain revelation, like tie-in, was in some type of vampire thing I watched where the vampire, being a vampire, was the Mark of Cain, and I was like, that's dope. I like that. But that's probably it. In this, she is supposedly also deserving of punishment, which also says so much about it, because she is called Lilith. And in Judeo-Christian lore, Lilith is a demonic being who was Adam's first wife. Her existence stems from a line in Genesis in which God makes man and woman. So in the beginning, he did this, he did that, he made man and woman. But then later, he makes Eve. And so people were like, who was the first woman who was made alongside Adam and therefore equal to him, and not made of him, therefore not subservient to him, right? Not belonging to him, right? And so that's where like Lilith comes from, is that she was the first wife who was made equal, and she was angered by this like request or expectation of Adam to be subservient to him, despite the fact that they were made the same way. They live in this, like, they're both the first, excuse you. And so she fled and she copulated with demons.
Yeah, right.
And she was like, cool. Right? So I've always been fascinated by Lilith. I have written stories about Lilith. Many of my characters in like short films or stories have been named Lilith. I'm not subtle. Like, I think she is a feminist icon.
Yeah.
And one of the first
As you should, man.
Yeah, she is one of the first strong women that has been demonized, and has had her story rewritten or erased to better push the narrative for well-behaved women, right? It's similar to Mary Magdalene, where they were like, oh, she was a sex worker, and that means she was less than. It's like, excuse you, she was a powerful woman. Like, Bible is wrought with women who are undersold, right? And the fact that they literally demonized this woman who was just like, no, I'm equal and I don't want to be under you, is telling, right? And so I think the fact that they chose Lilith, like, I don't think that this might have been the director's intention. Like, I don't think she has as strong a connection to Lilith as I do, but I was like, yes, that's it. And Kat will also talk about the fact that it's the first woman, and how important that is. So I think the decision to name Lacey as Lilith only further strengthens her identity as a feminist icon, especially in horror, and in the fact that even now, after all this time, she is still a monster who is killing bad men. Right, like, she's still upholding the tradition that she kind of went into, of like, men are trash, and I'm going to do this. And you know, if you also want to go further, is thinking like that the head of the human trafficking ring could be seen as a daughter of Eve, right? And that, you know, she was trying to uphold the status quo and be like, you know, this is how it works, this is how we profit, we let men do whatever they want. And then someone like Susie would be a daughter of Lilith, in that, you know, she has a little bit more spunk to her and believes that she should have equality and that men are trash and shouldn't rule everything. So I think it's saying all that even if it didn't mean to say all that. So again, I don't want to give credit where credit's not there, and because I didn't read any interviews with the creators, I just read a few reviews from other places, and like Kat said, it was very much like, this was a good movie, it was kind of spooky, and she was you know, kicking butt and taking names, and I like that, and it was like, but she was doing so much more than that, friends. You need to give her a little more credit for what she is representing, and the fighting the good fight for representation in horror too. Let's watch this film so people know we want to see more of it.